Every country on Earth is in debt. The United States alone owes over $38 trillion, the highest level in its history. The European Union carries around 14 trillion, Japan nearly 9 trillion, even oil-rich Saudi Arabia, even export powerhouses like Germany and China. So here's the obvious question nobody likes to answer. If everyone is in debt, who is the creditor? This is simple story where money, power, and history collide, and where the truth is rarely simple. Because debt isn't just a problem to be solved, it's the structure of the modern world. Every war, every crisis, every rise and collapse of empires has been built on layers of promises most people never see. Follow those promises long enough and you reach a disturbing conclusion. The world isn't truly in debt to a single country. It's in debt to itself. But that doesn't mean the system is fair. To understand why the planet is buried under more than $315 trillion in total debt, nearly 3 times global GDP, we have to go back to where it began. Long before credit cards, before digital banking, before Wall Street. The idea of national debt wasn't born in finance, it was born in war. In 1694, England was fighting France and running out of gold. The Crown turned to merchants with a deal: fund the war now, and in return, you'll receive permanent interest payments, guaranteed by future taxes. To manage this system, England created the Bank of England. For the first time in history, a government could spend money it didn't yet have, and lenders received something far more powerful than gold, the promise of the state, a promise that could be traded, sold, and passed on. This was the birth of the government bond, the foundation of modern finance. France copied it, the Dutch refined it, the United States used it to finance its revolution and its westward expansion. Debt stopped being a sign of weakness. It became a signal of credibility. The ability to borrow became the ability to govern. Empires once conquered land to extract gold. Now they issued bonds to extract interest. Power had moved from the battlefield to the balance sheet. Fast forward 3 centuries. Debt is now the world's largest financial product. America owes 38 trillion. Japan over 9 trillion. And global debt grows by $1 trillion every 100 days. Every country borrows. Every bank lends. Every citizen is involved, wicked through taxes, savings and pensions, as both debtor and creditor. So who's really holding the other end of the rope? Let's start with the United States, because its debt isn't just national, it's global. About half of US debt is held by public investors, and roughly 2/3 of those investors are American. Banks, pension funds, insurance companies, investment funds, and the Federal Reserve. The remaining third, it is said about $9 trillion, is held abroad. Japan owns roughly 1 trillion, China around 800 billion. Then come countries like the UK, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So when people say America owes China, that's technically true. But it's only about 2% of the total. Most of America's debt is owed to Americans themselves. The Treasury issues bonds. Financial institutions buy them. The Federal Reserve often buys them back, creating new dollars in the process. Taxes pay interest. Interest flows into retirement accounts. It's not a straight line, it's a loop. The debt is real. But the creditor is largely the same system looking back at itself. And this loop exists everywhere. Japan lends to the US. The US lends to Europe through the IMF. Europe lends to developing countries through the World Bank. Those countries store their reserves in Western bonds, sending the money back. A global circulation of promises. Every country holds someone else's IOU. Every promise is backed by another promise, like a poker table where no one owns real chips, only each other's markers. And the game survives for one reason: no one walks away. Above government sits another layer of power, the markets. Behind every bond is a massive network of institutions, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and central banks. They decide who borrows cheaply and who pays a brutal price. When trust disappears, currencies collapse, governments fall, entire economies can be rewritten overnight. Democracy decides who rules, markets decide who survives. At the center of this system are the most powerful actors of all, central banks. They don't just manage debt, they create it. When a central bank buys government bonds, it creates money from nothing. A liability on one balance sheet becomes an asset on another. Every dollar in circulation exists because there is debt somewhere else. There is no such thing as debt-free money. For decades, this worked because of one fragile thing: trust. As long as investors believe governments will keep paying interest, the system keeps moving. But when trust breaks, the consequences are immediate. In 2010, Greece could no longer service its debt. Bond markets panicked. Interest rates exploded. The IMF and European Central Bank stepped in. The rescue came with austerity, tax hikes, spending cuts, mass unemployment. In Argentina, repeated defaults turned debt into a national curse. In Sri Lanka, the government ran out of foreign currency, triggering fuel shortages and political collapse. When systems fail, creditors suddenly become visible. Rating agencies, international lenders, anonymous bondholders, and yet after every collapse the same logic returns. Old debt is replaced with new debt. Promises are rewritten, the machine restarts, because modern debt was never designed to be paid off. It was designed to be rolled forward. Governments don't plan to eliminate debt. Not now, not ever. This isn't a conspiracy, it's policy. When individuals borrow, repayment is expected. States operate differently. They refinance old bonds with new ones. Interest is the real product, the price paid for stability. The global economy now depends on that interest, like oxygen. That's why America will never fully repay its debt. It will renew it indefinitely. Japan has done the same for decades. Its debt exceeds 250% of GDP, yet borrowing costs remain near zero. Investors aren't waiting for repayment, they're waiting for renewal, because government bonds are seen as the safest collateral in the world. They anchor pension funds, they secure banks, they function almost like money. If governments suddenly paid off their debt, the system would break. The safest assets would vanish, money supply would shrink, deflation would hit. Paying off debt would destroy the structure built on it. So governments do the opposite. They issue more, steadily, predictably. Debt becomes the heartbeat of capitalism. That's why promises to eliminate the national debt are illusions. The goal isn't to erase debt, it's to keep it believable. Because when belief collapses, numbers don't matter, and belief is not evenly shared. Interest payments don't flow equally, they move from workers and taxpayers to institutions and asset holders. Debt isn't just a transfer between countries, it's a transfer between classes. That's why inequality rises alongside global debt. The system rewards those who hold debt and punishes those who service it. Creditors aren't villains, debtors aren't innocent. They're components of the same engine. The real danger comes when new promises can't keep up with old ones. That's when the question, who is the creditor, stops being theoretical. It becomes personal, because at the top of this global structure, there is no single enemy. Not China, not Wall Street, not the IMF. All of them, and all of us. Modern finance turned debt itself into money. Governments issue it, banks expand it, investors trade it, citizens live inside it. The line between debtor and creditor has blurred. Debt once meant bondage. Today it means balance. But balance depends on trust, and trust cannot grow forever. Eventually, every promise meets its limit, because no promise can be rolled forward forever.